really hoping we stay out front and keep pulling away and be on that stage in the banquet in November.
Welcome, everyone, to the Driving Vision podcast brought to you by the Zeigler Auto Group. And here with me, Auto Group Director of Talent Development, Mike Van Ryn. Welcome, Mike.
Hey, thanks, Sam.
Be sure to subscribe to the podcast, like it if you do, and leave a comment. Hey, everybody, welcome to the special edition of the podcast. With me today, NASCAR race car driver Carson Hocevar. Carson, welcome.
Thanks, Sam. I appreciate you letting me come on here.
So, Carson, we're excited to have you here with us today because next week on Sunday, you take the track at the famous Talledega Speedway, driving the 77 Spire Zeigler-sponsored car. This is our first primary sponsorship where Zeigler is going to be all over the car. Before we talk about last Sunday, which was a heck of a lot of fun, talk to us about what's going to happen at Talledega and what it means to you to be driving the 77 Zeigler-sponsored car at this famous raceway.
Yeah, I mean, it's obviously super special. We've been all waiting on this. I feel like there's been a lot of anticipation for it. Zeigler Auto Group was very proudly on the hood of the 500, but wasn't the whole car, wasn't the car we unveiled at the Christmas party. And so exciting to have that, be able to wear the Zeigler colors for suit and helmet, which is brandly new painted, and a lot of excitement there, obviously, and just a lot of fun, and excited to just represent Kalamazoo and all of Zeigler Auto Group and Team Zeigler.
So do you have people reaching out to you locally here in Kalamazoo? You know, your parents have a shop here, you grew up here, you've got family here. Obviously, Zeigler has its roots here in Kalamazoo. As you had an incredible race last Sunday, did you have any kind of interesting phone calls or support locally from people watching you? Because the whole city is watching you.
Not a whole lot of phone calls and texts. I don't give my number out to too many people.
That's smart. Yeah, that's smart.
But, a lot of race fans, I've noticed all year, actually. I mean, so many will stop and say, can I get an autograph or whatever? And, it's as I'm signing, they're like, hey, we're from Kalamazoo, we're from Portage or right near here, or hey, we were, at Zeigler, or we've seen Zeigler. And that is probably the coolest part, is how many race fans say they've made the trip. And a lot of the trips we made is not anywhere close to Michigan so far this year. So super cool. Yeah. And that's probably the most fun. All of a sudden, I'll take that extra second, right, to stop and, ask how far away from here, or really that's awesome. And, obviously, and then, on the social media side, so many, fans from when I raced Berlin and more so that way have definitely reached out and see a lot of comments and messages. And that's probably the highlight of my weekend, is number one, hearing how many people come to the racetrack and are there for me or, from my home area, which is probably the coolest part.
It's exciting to have NASCAR in the air here in Kalamazoo, and not only in Western Michigan, but across the entire Zeigler Auto Group footprint. So we posted to our internal social media video from you where you were talking about the race before you took to the track at Texas Motor Speedway. And, in prep for today, I was reading some of the headlines that are out there after the race, and one grabbed my attention because you finished awesome. Like, it was your best finish of NASCAR Cup yet. And yet there's this title: Carson Hocevar was left disappointed after his first career top 10 finish in the Cup Series. Tell us a little bit about your day at Texas Motor Speedway, and how did a top 10, your best ever finish, translate into disappointment somehow?
It wasn't the smoothest of days. We had a really solid qualifying after qualifying 16, got inside the top 10. And then the yellow came out in the middle of stage one during the green flag cycle. And, we would have cycled around 12th to 13th, which is still pretty solid. And then all of a sudden we ended up in the 20s, got stuck behind, got a bad restart, just trying to avoid sort of the chaos. And, got spun for whatever reason. I'm not sure if he was mad at me or whatnot, but got spun. And when I spun, I would call it a save almost. I really shouldn't say I spun. Attempted to get spun out and luckily saved it. But the way the track is with the banking and the flat area, my left front rode against the apron, which pushed it up a lot, which lost a bunch of front downforce of our car. And made our car super tight, lacked a lot of speed late that we didn't have. And, when these cars are built to be balanced perfectly and everything's so close and so detrimental, and especially the underbody where how much air flows underneath. If that's way off, your car is completely different. And we did not know that. So we just thought, man, we just lost the handle on this thing. We didn't prepare well enough. We're not sure what the issue is. Just to find out, we went through tech inspection, and, they do their scans, above the car and under the car, and they know exactly where the car is. And if it's in, it'll tell us if it's within the thousandths or even more. And it was telling us it was way off. And all of a sudden we all looked and pointed, and we're like, all right, now we can feel a lot happier about it. And, just know that it wasn't really self-inflicted. It was just damage that we didn't, you can't see it. The car looks perfectly intact. I didn't hit anything, but you look underneath, and that thing is obviously hurt, from sliding, but then also too dragging around there on a flat tire, to go to pit road. So that part was disappointing before a little bit, just because you want to have a little bit more speed. We're pumped about the finish, obviously, but we wanted to be able to do that on speed and be better than 10th even, because we thought we could do that, and just wasn't in the cards after we figured out that damage.
So talk to us about the human personal element. Like at work, we all work with coworkers, and we know that we're better when we work together as a team and we deliver as a team. You have teammates that you compete against. When you get spun out and you're not sure if that person spun you out intentionally or if it was an accident, are there words that happen afterwards? How do you deal with that?
Well, it depends on certain situations. For me, I would always do it. I'll never instigate anything really on pit road, just because, you represent a lot of people, a lot of companies, and there's just a lot of things on the stake, right? And for us, especially with us finishing 10th, right, all of a sudden changes the whole narrative. Instead of us, being pumped about finishing 10th, and everybody with all the headlines, all of a sudden it's just going to talk about if we got in a fight on pit road. And that's just not good for anybody, right?
Yeah.
So, I mean, that's just something you talk about. You just ask, make you mad? What happened here? Was it intentional? Did you lose your mind? Like, what happened? And that's just a conversation to eventually have. And there's obviously a time and place. And at the time, we were a little deliberate, but we were also knew it was a time to celebrate and be happy and take the positives.
There was a lot of that this week, right? On the Texas Motor Speedway, there were a lot of bumps, a lot of spin outs, a lot of yellow flags. Maybe I think I even heard maybe even the most that had ever happened at that particular 16 cautions on Sunday.
It was still new into their development of figuring out the traction compound. And a few years ago, they sprayed it, and they kind of sprayed it wrong, or it mixed wrong or something. And I think so rather than creating more grip, it made it a lot slicker.
Oh, no.
So, it was especially apparent for IndyCar when they went there. So they've tried to scrape it off. They've tried everything to get it off, and it just is always kind of stained. I think they went too overkill on it. So, there's a traction compound that's not really much of a traction compound up there, and that thing is still there, and I don't think they've sprayed it in 3-4 years. It's just that they put that much on it, for one, but also two, because it is supposed to be sticky. I don't have all the science to it, but I would imagine, we only race on it once or twice a year. So if it's ever dusty, if there's ever gunk or the place could get very dirty. And if you're not cleaning it every week, as I'm sure they're not, right, when they're not racing, it could collect a lot of dust and a lot of dirt and whatever the case may be that's coming flying in, from the highway. There's a highway right next door, basically. Whatever the case, that is going to put a layer of, just slick stuff. But also, too, it's a little bumpy up there, especially in 3 and 4, the fastest part of the racetrack. So our cars is as low as they can be, for a smooth place. And it's not, for us, it's plenty worth the gamble to get it as low as you could be, and just know as a driver, like, this could be treacherous. And sometimes when you're racing a guy, it's easy to get greedy and be like, oh, I could do this. I could get through here. And all the times it was always the guy in second that spun and hit those bumps and whatnot. So, that's the easiest spot to try and get greedy, try to get the lead. I could hold a little bit more throttle, and then all of a sudden it bites you.
Yeah. So you race every Sunday, and you're racing for a top finish ultimately. But the other race that's going on is the race for Rookie of the Year. You're leading that right now. What does that race mean to you?
You'll get a trophy and award, and you'll feel really good about it, right? We're still very new. I'm a rookie, obviously, so fighting for a top 10 spot in points is maybe a little unrealistic and a little premature for our team. Still really trying to find its footing and really grow. Not make, this team's never made the playoffs yet or anything. So for us, it's just trying to, number one, try to get to the teens, try to get to the top 20 in points, but also two, rookie of the year puts you on the stage, it gets you an award, and you feel really good about it because you won best in class, right? Sometimes, the valedictorian in school, right? Or whatever, that when you win the award, whether it's one, two, three, four, five people, it doesn't matter. You were best in class. And for me in school, I had a small class, and I remember they'd make a big deal out of it. I won it one week, and I was like, man, I'm only racing four people, or like I'm only like battling four people. I was like the best in class for that quarter or whatever, and I was like, there's only like kids in my class, and but
Yeah.
rookie years is the same deal,
Yeah.
and obviously, it these are really good guys. Josh Berry's super good. He came from Junior Motorsports. He was Dale Jr.'s basically a prospect, and Zane's obviously won some truck championships. So this one's a little bit more star-studded that I'm really hoping we stay out front and keep pulling away and be on that stage in the banquet in November.
Well, you continue to drive as you did last Sunday, and you've got a good shot at that, I would imagine. So we moved to Alabama to the Talledega Motor Speedway. Talledega is famous for people that don't know NASCAR well because of the movie, right? Any interesting insights into that racetrack as it relates to the movie and some of the lure created around the movie? Because that's definitely have you seen it? First of all, you've seen Talledega Nights, yeah?
It's not as easy as just line up with your buddy and shake and bake, and you'll just pass them. That part's probably the only thing that's very inaccurate, right? Normally in a super speedway, you're in a pack of 20 or 30, but for the plot lines, you're only in a pack of 3. So that part's obviously a little different, but same sort of principles, right? You can definitely watch that movie, go to Talledega, and sort of understand it a little bit enough that by the end of 400 or 500 miles or whatever Talledega is, I think you could start to diverse of what's real, what's not, what's reality, what's a little bit of Hollywood, and then start picking it up. But obviously, I think that movie's hilarious and a lot of fun. And Shane Van Gisbergen was from Australia, and he came over to the States to race NASCAR this year, and he was on my teammate Corey LaJoie's podcast, and they asked him what was the biggest shock coming to America to race NASCAR, and he first said that first off, Talledega Nights isn't a comedy, it's a documentary. So just the way everybody lives out here and whatnot, and just the dynamic and everything. So I always thought that was really fun.
Yeah. So what does this week look like for you as you think about preparing? At Zeigler, within the Zeigler Auto Group, as we go to work and we prepare every day to be our best selves and deliver for our customers, there's a lot of preparation that goes behind making sure we deliver. There's systems and processes we double check, and inventories we make sure are right, and other things that we have to double check before we're sitting in front of customers. What does a week in the life of a NASCAR driver coming into Talledega look like to prepare for this Zeigler sponsor?
Yeah, it's very different for how we prepare as drivers. It's a little easier in a sense than most weeks, right? Just because there's, at most weeks like Texas, I mean, you're constantly studying different lines, different scenarios, different restarts, just constantly different brake traces, different throttle traces, pit entry, pit exits, strategy of 2 tires, 4 tires, what the balance is going to do there. Where Talledega, it's more studying the drivers more than the racetrack. I mean, the racetrack, they have the Richard Petty experience. Everybody can kind of go around there wide open. For us, it's really no different. All of us are plenty capable of running wide open around there, but it's the racing each other. You start to learn. You study who's a really good pusher, who's not, who's really sketchy to be around, who's really comfortable to be around, who can you take advantage of. This is the only week I say that it's very similar to other sports, right? Just March Madness just happened, and they always study. They're not studying the game of basketball. They're studying the team they're playing, how they play the game of basketball, right? This is the only time we'll actually study other drivers and what they're doing in the draft more than anything. And really, when we go to Texas, right, or Kansas, there's 2 or 3 really outliers that are super good, or Darlington or Homestead. You'll study the best of the guys, but you won't study almost the whole field, where at Talledega, you're really trying to point out who does what on a consistent basis, and if they're going to be good help or bad help, or should you be around them or not. That's really the big difference for Talledega.
That's cool. Well, Carson, we are so excited for this weekend. It's going to be fun to see you take the track there in Talledega. We appreciate all the messages you send us before the race. It's fun to help draw Team Zeigler in and just be part of this cool event.
Excited to bring Warranty the Cheetah ride with me on the helmet. So that part's really cool. Probably one of my favorite helmets. That's glad we could do that, collaborate on that, and excited to just wear all the colors and give Team Zeigler a really good ride. A lot of momentum to build on, and excited to do it now in Team Zeigler colors.
So actually tell Team Zeigler what the Cheetah, so you saw the Cheetah trophy that we take around with our stores, and your team was like, hey, we could implement that.
Mixed in that is a cheetah print, which is super cool. It's into the white, so it's not just regular white. Yeah. It's just built into the white, which is cool and adds a lot of flavor and color. But on the back, it looks like a picture. I don't know how they paint these things to be so accurate, but that was my favorite thing. Obviously we took a lot of tours and got to come hang out for a handful of days in the off season up at Team Zeigler, and that was my favorite thing that pointed out. And I was like, man, I gotta put that thing on a helmet and put him, and thought that was a cool story that you wouldn't really know unless you're really developed and inside Team Zeigler. And that's cool for, we have our traditions, right, that we hold dear in our heart, that is an inside joke or whatever the case may be, that we want to win, and I love that. Yeah, they're very meaningful, and I love the idea that they all compete to win.
That are meaningful.
That Warranty Cheetah, but also too, just how much fun they have with it. It's not just I just love that the fact that they try to take it everywhere. I think it's got its own social media, whatever it was. So I was like, man, he's got to come to the racetrack with us. Yeah.
That's cool. We're thrilled he is. And, it's funny, as we were approaching Talledega, we went through the design stages on the wrap, and your team actually suggested we put the Cheetah on the hood of the car and kind of do the Talledega Nights car design, which we didn't end up doing. And actually Aaron was like, oh, that would have been really cool. So maybe next year. I was telling your team, well,
thank you, Sam.
Good luck at Talledega. We'll see you there. And we're excited to hear how it goes after the race. Thank you, Carson Hocevar. A big thanks to NASCAR race car driver Carson Hocevar for contributing to this week's podcast. Until next week, how are you driving vision today?